truly is impressive. We have business, we have labor, we have traditional energy sources, new energy sources, and the states represented. And it couldn't be clearer that this committee recognizes the immense value of permitting reform. And I think it's fair to say everybody in this room agrees that the status quo is just not working. Projects that are clearly in the public interest are taking years or even decades to move from concept to completion, not because they fail to meet environmental standards, but because the process itself has become unpredictable, duplicative, and vulnerable to endless delays. That reality has consequences. When energy infrastructure is delayed, it affects reliability, affordability, and our ability to meet the growing demand. When housing projects are delayed, families face higher rents, longer commutes, and these are challenges Utahns experience every day. Permitting never was meant to be a barrier on its own. It was intended to ensure sound decision-making, public input, and environmental stewardship, all within a reasonable and transparent time frame. Too often, it delivers none of those outcomes. There are still elements of the permitting process that require a physical rubber stamp. And I've enjoyed working with Senator Kelly on the E-Permit Act to digitalize permitting approvals. There are many common sense updates that could provide greater certainty for project developers and communities they serve. Another critical element of permitting reform is certainty. And I feel strongly that no project should have to worry that it will be halted at the whim of an administration. We've seen that in 2021 with Keystone XL pipeline, and we see it today with wind projects across the country. It raises questions. How can we expect sustained investment in infrastructure without certainty? I actually believe one of the most critical areas impacts rural America and a big part of my state. We should be honest that permitting reform is not about choosing between environmental standards and development. I believe that's a false choice. It's about recognizing that a process that drags on indefinitely serves neither. Environmental outcomes are not improved when projects stall for years without resolution, and communities are not helped when needed infrastructure is never built. Streamlining does not mean cutting corners. It means focusing analysis on what actually matters, coordinating agencies so applications are not bounced from one office to another, and holding the federal government to the same standard of accountability we expect from sponsors of projects. So let me start, Mr. Booker, with labor. You've articulated well on some of the questions that have been asked about how this impacts you. I'd like to ask, in particular, the swing that you get, between administrations, how that impacts planning, training, and the things that you work with retention and recruiting. And if you have any expertise, especially in rural America, how we're seeing that impact.
Right. Thank you for the question. And look, I'm in a unique position that I actually negotiated Keystone XL pipeline and I negotiated offshore wind. So I've got...
It's both your fault.
So, well, I mean...
So it's your fault.
I didn't think of it that way. I probably should have kept my mouth shut on that. We shouldn't have energy projects become political. And I think that's what the purpose of this committee is. And our members, when they vote, when they go cast their ballot, they don't cast their ballot to lose their job. And that happened both in 2020 and that happened in 2024. And that's the stuff that we have to get rid of. To your question on rural and on training, we go out into those communities. That's what I'm proud of, is to go out and meet with those community leaders, those church leaders, and those communities to bring people in. And whether that's the skills they need to build a pipeline or the skills and certifications they need for offshore wind, we have to go identify those. We have to go meet with your constituents, bring them in with our contractor partners, give them those skill sets, and then put them out to work through apprenticeship and through journeyman training. So we have to have predictability. We have to have certainty that these projects, once permitted, are going to be built, because it takes a while to build a pipeline or to build a wind farm or a solar farm. So the predictability is key here.
Thank you. Mr. Bechtel, could you address the same, the way this impacts business and investment, these swings, these wide positions, that go back and forth? tell us how that's impacting you and investment and your business.
Yeah, Senator Curtis, it's a really important point. I'll frame it from a competitiveness perspective, both abroad and within the United States. Capital is mobile. It's going to go to wherever uncertainty is lowest. The current system undermines our competitiveness abroad and at home. And of course, in the era of artificial intelligence and the national security implications of winning that race, we're basically shooting ourselves in the foot if we can't build power fast enough to provide the power needed to win that race.
Yeah, thank you. I'm out of time, but let me just make a point, and I'd love to ask you too about it, but I'm out of time, Mr. Meyer and Ms. Hooper. Just the obvious fact that this impacts price. You talked about consumers, but just let's be very, very clear. The consumers are paying dramatically for this. And Mr. Terry, also out of time, but if I had more time, I would love to explore what we could be doing to give states more authority and more responsibility in this. And as we have additional hearings, we'd love to explore those topics with all of you. Thank you.